We've got a special episode for you. Evan Phillips of the Dodgers is here to talk with us. We talk about his journey to the majors, the 2024 Dodgers, how he thought the offseason went, and a lot more. So let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. This is the daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become an everydayer, that's someone that listens or watches every day, that's all you have to do, listen or watch every day. And it can be done easier if you subscribe, again, wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. If there's your first time listening watching, I'm Vince Samperio, and later we'll see Jeff Snider, my co-host, and we'll also see a special guest, Evan Phillips. Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have covered the team in a few ways, this podcast being one of them. And we're here to bring you what we think is the smart and rational thoughts and takes about the Dodgers, hopefully making you a better Dodger fan, as we know we love becoming better Dodger fans. So, as I mentioned, Evan Phillips is in the building with us today. We talked to him about a lot of different things, how the offseason went for him and how he felt about the Dodgers' moves, about his journey to the Dodgers and everything that came with it, and just a lot more. He was very great. A lot to get into, so let's not waste any more time. Here's us and Evan Phillips. All right, Locked On Dodgers fans, we have a special guest today, and we have Dodgers closer at the moment, Evan Phillips. Evan, how's it going?
It's going good, guys. Really excited to be on with you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We reached out and, you followed us back on Instagram, and then we reached out and said you're a fan of the Locked On Podcast Network as a whole. So is there any other ones that you listen to or check out?
It's funny. I gave my wife a heads up that I had this going on tonight, and she asked me the background of, the Locked On Podcast Network. And I still listen to one or two here and there, but I think it started way back probably 2014 or 15, maybe. Ironically enough, it was right around Kevin Durant's free agency, and I was listening to Locked On Washington Wizards. So I was born in Maryland. I was a Wizards fan for a long time, and the story goes is Kevin Durant played in his final game in D.C. as a member of the Oklahoma City Thunder, and a local reporter asked him if he would consider coming back and playing for the Wizards, and Kevin Durant was pretty much like, "Yeah, I don't think so, not for me." And that's kind of when I kind of dedicated my fandom to Locked On Wizards and gave that a run for a little while. And then as soon as that news broke that KD was signing elsewhere, I kind of switched gears. But yeah, that was the origination of the Locked On Network. But yeah, so it's kind of a small world thing. And then nowadays I'm listening to, my wife's going to probably feel embarrassed for me, but I listen to a fantasy basketball podcast. Nice. Locked On Fantasy Basketball with Josh Lloyd. He's the man. He's working all the way out in Australia too. So kudos to him for grinding through all those games here stateside and doing a great job. So happy to give him a little plug.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's when Vince told me you were a fan of the network, I briefly forgot that our network does other sports. I'm like, well, oh yeah, what's he listening to besides Locked On Dodgers? And, oh yeah, there's other sports. And some people like sports besides baseball. I'm not one of those people, but some people do.
Yeah, and my wife, she's a big. She went to Auburn University, so I'll have to check out Locked On Auburn, and then she's a Philadelphia girl, so I have to check out Locked On Eagles as well. They had a crushing end of the season, but hopefully they can right the ship.
Yeah, see, there's the Locked On Podcast Network has something for everybody.
It runs deep. That's for sure.
Exactly. So let's get into it. We're still in the off season. Just before we get into specifics, how's your off season been going? Everything good? All healthy? And how's Bo and the family doing?
Yeah, family's great. That's probably the best thing about being home for the off season is really being able to dedicate time as a dad and make up for some of those losses that we get during the season with all the travel and obviously the obligations on the field. But it's been great to be home with them and enjoy the holiday season. We did a bit of traveling to go see family and things like that. And, training down here is going well. And we live in Florida, so we're definitely privileged enough to be able to work outside quite a bit and throw outside. So all of those things are very beneficial for, my off season and what I need to do. So we've been down here for a handful of years now, and it's been great for us. We love it.
I'm looking out my window at 7 inches of snow here in Utah where I live. And,
Oof.
I like the winter, but, being outside throwing a baseball around sounds nice. So
No, we definitely miss our seasons. That's for sure.
yeah, seasons are nice, it's but I'm looking forward to spring. So Evan, we know what it was like as Dodger fans and Dodger podcasters this winter as the Dodgers just went crazy. We came into the offseason hoping they'd sign Ohtani, hoping they'd sign Yamamoto.
Mhm.
We talked about maybe they'll trade for Tyler Glasnow. When they actually did it all, like we know what it was like for us. What's it like for you as a Dodger and as a key Dodger, a guy who is going to play a big role on this team? What's it like for you watching this stuff unfold?
It really is. It's pretty crazy. The expectation of being a Dodger, it always comes with that expectation to win, and our goal is always to win the World Series. And, over the past few years since I've been with the team, we've made little splashes here and there. We signed Freddie Freeman. We kind of had a low key under the radar off season last year and still won 100 games, won the division. So I think going out and getting these mega stars that we've gotten is it can only mean a good thing for the Dodgers. I think they decided to maybe push the chips all in a bit more. Once you get the big guy in Ohtani, go out there and get Yamamoto. Go trade for another great starting pitcher in Glasnow. So I think it definitely means great things for this season. That's for sure.
Peeking behind the curtains on that, is this something? Are you learning like we're learning through Twitter or wherever else you get your news from, or do you have a little bit more inside info into what some of the things are going on?
Maybe just a touch more on inside info, but nothing specific. I wouldn't even say that. So, matter of fact, when the Ohtani news broke, I had my brother-in-law texted me and said, "Hey, congratulations," and that can mean a lot of things. So, immediately I ran right to Twitter and saw the back-to-back tweets from Jeff Passan and Fabian Ardaya that confirmed the news, and it's just that's what everybody was waiting on this whole offseason. Everybody was wondering where is he going to sign. So, the minute that was decided, it was kind of really uplifting in a lot of ways, and it just kind of rejuvenated the Dodger offseason, and I think it really picked up a lot of steam elsewhere. Then you go out there and trade for Tyler Glasnow, you sign Yamamoto, sign Teoscar Hernandez, and just one after another big event for our team. So it's really going to be exciting to get to spring training with these guys, get the group together, and work towards opening day.
So the day before Ohtani made his announcement, there was, it was announced that he was signing with the Blue Jays. And then, that was kind of refuted. Well, nothing's final yet. And all the watching the airplane, tracking the airplane, all that crazy stuff. Like, did you, when you said you don't really have inside information, like, did you think he was going to Toronto at that point?
No, I mean, anytime there's momentum, gaining towards anything, it certainly can be indicative that that's going to be the decision. But in baseball specifically, Jeff Passan's the guy I put all my trust in. So until I hear it from him, I'm not going to believe it.
That's our mantra here too, for sure. If Passan didn't say it, it didn't happen.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, and then with Ohtani, it ended up being Ohtani that announced it. So
you
got it straight from the horse's mouth. Yeah.
Exactly.
On that note, you're talking about excited getting into spring training and kind of there. One real quick. So I've been brushing up. I've been trying to learn some Japanese. Is that going on with you at all? You're trying to learn, pick up little phrases or anything?
I'm definitely excited to. One of my good friends was born in Japan. We talk a lot, so I've yet to actually ask him to give me some background information on what can I say to impress these guys and get on their good side early and things like that. But it'll be exciting just to have those guys around. And in baseball, you play with a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different cultures. But I've never played with an Asian player of any descent, so it'll be really exciting for me to have one in the clubhouse and learn about their culture and their history. And it's going to be exciting for all of us. That's for sure.
That's cool.
Today's episode is brought to you by Ibotta. After the holidays, after all that gift giving, we could all use a little more cash in our pockets. because we still need to buy the everyday things that we need. So make sure you're getting cash back on all your everyday purchases with Ibotta. Ibotta is a free app that gives you cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies to toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The other apps give you points that might not amount to much, but with Ibotta, you add your offers in the app, you upload your receipt, and you get real cash so you can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. The average Ibotta user earns $145 per year. That's a few Dodger tickets or a nice dinner or a flight or something like that. So make sure you go join the over 50 million savers and earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 brands and retailers, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Today's episode is also brought to you by Jase Medical. We come to sports to escape the crazy realities of life, but we can't always escape those crazy realities. But we can make it a little bit easier with Jase Medical. This year, we're having one of the worst flu seasons in a while, and according to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin, and that's a little bit nerve-wracking. But Jase Medical is here to help you out because they have a Jase case, which is a pack of 5 different antibiotics that treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, UTIs, and more. All stuff that can happen to any of us. So go right now to jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medication will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. Don't wait anymore. Go to jasemedical.com. And remember, you can use the offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. It's never been more important to be prepared today. That's jasemedical.com with offer code LOCKEDON for $20 off. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. And remember, you can find Locked On Sports Today or Locked On Sports Los Angeles on YouTube, both 24/7 streaming channels that cover the news and stories from around the sports world and from around the LA sports world. Brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's get back to Evan Phillips.
So thinking about your career, it's been kind of a whirlwind that you were bouncing around between organizations, and within the span of like a year, you went from DFA'd, picked up by the Dodgers, to suddenly you are on everybody's list as one of the top relief pitchers in baseball. Is that something that, like, I guess maybe it's a 2-part question. When you were bouncing around, did you think of yourself as, I'm one of the top relief pitchers in baseball, the team just hadn't figured it out yet? Or was this something that kind of took you by surprise too?
That's a great question, Jeff. I certainly had a belief that I belonged in the major leagues, and that's where that drive and all that work on a day-to-day basis came from. But I had nothing to show for it. You know what I mean? So when I first got to Los Angeles and I was in the locker room amidst Clayton Kershaw, and we had Albert Pujols at the time, Corey Seager, Trey Turner, Max Scherzer. I mean, it was just name after name, Hall of Famer, All-Star after All-Star. So it was a little intimidating at first, and I definitely didn't feel like I was supposed to be a part of it. I didn't feel like I belonged at first. And I was actually just recently talking about this with a friend of mine. The Dodgers brought me in and immediately tried to instill confidence. They immediately said, you have these great pitches. We're going to help you, find a way to make them work best for you, and we believe in you. And it took me a long time. It probably took me until the middle of 2022. So I had a great season, but up until about the All-Star break, I still didn't quite believe it, just because I didn't really want to either. I'm very much so like a day-by-day worker. I didn't want to get too caught up in what was going on, and of course I was having a good year, but I was still striving to get better and better each day. So that confidence in myself really didn't cement itself until later in 2022, and then 2023 getting thrust into the closer position about midway through the year. And having that kind of faith put in you from your manager, from Doc, it's gives you a lot of confidence in yourself to go out there and get the job done. And I do think my general approach of one pitch at a time, one batter at a time, one day at a time has definitely helped me in the long run.
Yeah, we've heard, and you were just in the LA Times too, talking about how the Dodgers kind of transformed and what they wanted to do with you and kind of what they brought to you. And I think one of the quotes in there was you saying, like, if the Los Angeles Dodgers are telling me to do this, I should probably do this. Is that one of those things where you're just like, you obviously you said you fully embraced it, but was it one like where you truly were like, okay, let me do this and see what happens?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was coming into my time with the Dodgers in August of 2021. Recently released in the same month, released by the Orioles out of the minor leagues. And then, like you guys said, signed a minor league contract with Tampa, and then fortunately had an opportunity with them in the major leagues, but it was short lived. And I found myself in LA, and it was all quite a bit of a whirlwind. But when they sat me down and kind of laid out the game plan for what they think I could be, I had no other choice but to listen and say, yeah, it's worth giving it a try. And then I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to pitch in the postseason in 2021. Try to showcase as much as I could. And one funny little tidbit I think about the Dodgers and their philosophies and their impact they can have on a player. Going into spring training in 2022, I came in all excited about my changeup. It was a new, fresh changeup, this and that. And I was going to the pitching coaches and saying, "You guys, I can't wait to show you this thing. It's new and improved." And then I sit down and they say, "Well, actually, we were thinking you're not going to throw that anymore, and we're going to teach you a cutter instead." And I was like, "Okay." So much for all that off-season work. I guess we should have. And I think that was that might have been. I guess that was the lockout season too. So we couldn't even have that conversation before then. So a bit unfortunate in that regard, but funny in a lot of ways that I came in all excited about this changeup that I had been working on, and sure enough, they said, "You know what? Forget about it. Let's teach you this cutter." And I'm certainly glad they did, because this the cutter I've been throwing has been a game changer for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for sure. Changeups are a funny thing with pitchers. I remember during COVID when the Dodgers were they do like these Zoom meetings with fans and stuff, and they'd have the players on from their homes. And Clayton Kershaw was on a few of them, and every single one, he's sitting there just, casually holding the baseball, and it's always in a changeup grip. And it's like Clayton Kershaw, Hall of Famer, 3 of the best pitchers in baseball, and even he just wants that changeup so bad. Why do all pitchers want a changeup?
I think we're all just looking for more, and I think that's probably maybe a stubborn thing about pitchers. I mean, to your point, Clayton Kershaw with historically one of the best left-handed careers in the game, he's still searching for something more, and I think that's part of just the drive that he has. But it definitely is like every pitcher that doesn't have something wants it. So I've never been able to throw a curveball. I would love to be able to just throw one in my life. Would be nice. But I literally my hand just doesn't work that way. So it's really just funny how pitchers are acting. You see guys all the time chatting in the dugout, exchanging different grips and ideas. And I swear to you guys that's how pitchers learn. I think you learn best from having conversations with as many guys as you can. You don't need to take everything. I'm certainly not going to be the same pitcher that Clayton Kershaw is, but we can have a conversation about something, and whether it's pitch grips, usage, counts of when to use your pitches, things like that. Taking away a small bit of that information can help build you to be, a better version of yourself.
Kind of going off of that and the information, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is known for kind of this javelin workout. The Dodgers are bringing in his guy to, I would imagine to work with him, but, maybe you guys get curious and work on. I know Max Muncy's talking about he wants to throw the javelin on another podcast. Is it something, does that play into it too? Like, pitch grips and everything else, but also like, different workouts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, all of us, when we leave for the off season, we all go home and we all kind of do our own thing, workout wise, training wise. Sure, the Dodgers have a hand in what's going on. They want to make sure everyone's doing, stuff that's safe and going to be productive for them down the road. But everyone does something a little bit different, so to have Yamamoto coming in, doing this javelin workout, and I've noticed that both him and Shohei are very flexible guys. I've seen that going around the internet quite a bit too. So just in the same way you talk about, pitch grip in the dugout, you see a guy, doing something in the training room or doing a workout, down in the weight room. You certainly want to, pick his ear about, hey, what's that? What's the idea behind that? So I'm sure if the javelin workout's going to be good for some guys, we'll probably look into it a little bit, without a doubt.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL regular season's over, NFL wildcard weekend's over, but we're getting into the nitty gritty of the playoffs, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. You don't even need to know who you think's going to win. You don't even need to know anything really. All you have to do is put $5 down, and you get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. And what can you do with that 150? There's so much to do. You can build out other bets. You can place other bets. They got a lot on the app that you can check out, the FanDuel app. You can do the Explore tab where you can find bets, the Parlay Hub where you can make and find the most popular parlays, and you can always build your own parlay or just bet straight up or bet money line or bet props, whatever you want to do. It's all there for you on the FanDuel app. So go to FanDuel.com/locked on and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. We want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you're not an everydayer, all you got to do is listen or watch every day. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you can become a Locked On Dodgers insider and go beyond the podcast and text directly with us and get our thoughts and reactions and ask questions and all that good stuff. All you got to do is go to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. That's joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. And we're back with Evan Phillips.
It's I guess changing gears a little bit. You and your wife, like pretty much everybody on the Dodgers, had a baby last year, and it's your first. And before we hit record, I had my sons come in here to say hi to you. Being a dad is my favorite thing. I have an older daughter who's in college too, so she wasn't here to say hi. But being a dad it's just the greatest. And I was just wondering, from a dad perspective, like, how have you changed as a baseball player since becoming a dad?
That's a really good question. I don't know if there's been, I was a little concerned about how it would affect me on the field, because I got so emotional with becoming a dad. And our son, he spent 2 weeks in the NICU before we were able to bring him home. So I remember I was flying back to Pittsburgh, and just a whirlwind of emotions going through my head. I was so caught up in what was going on with my son in the hospital. It was really hard to, bring myself back to baseball. And fortunately, the Dodgers they eased me back into things, because I think they could sense that I was, in a different emotional state than I normally was. But I will say, beyond that, my wife and I have found, a great, I guess, routine or pattern that helps me separate the two. Because when I'm home, it certainly is like I'm dad all the time. And I can't explain to you guys how much I absolutely love it. And then, fortunately, I have such a deep passion for baseball that it's kind of just naturally gravitated away from that. When I am at the baseball field, I am able to dedicate myself fully to my job and my responsibilities as a pitcher and player for the Dodgers. But back to how I started the conversation too, just being a full-time dad this off season. Obviously, I have obligations, to go train and go throw, but being able to be in the midst of his development over the past few months has been, the best thing in my life, without a doubt.
He probably started crawling this off season, huh?
He's close.
Okay.
So
Nice.
it's interesting. Because he was 2 weeks early, he's like developmentally a little bit behind in some things, but he's also grown like crazy. The pediatrician's telling us that she has newborns that turn 1 year old, and they're not quite as big as he is now. He has literally just exploded in front of our eyes over the past few months, and that development has been an absolute blast to watch, because he went from being this smaller kind of baby to now he's like filled out a ton. He's got the little wrinkles all the way down in his forearms and ankles. It's been a lot of fun to watch him grow. That's for sure.
Hey, chubby and wrinkled is something I can relate to.
Yeah. On that note, you talked about pitch grips and everything else. Is there a dad group chat as well in the Dodger locker room? Is that something you guys talk about? I'm sure there's a lot of guys that have either had kids for a while or just all had kids at the same time.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny. It's not a direct example, but my grandfather is in his 80s now, and him and I we've talked about baseball and all this kind of stuff my entire life. But the minute my son was born, we started to talk about babies and what it's like to be a dad and things like that, and conversations I had never had with my grandfather before. And honestly, it's a little similar to that in the baseball, like in the clubhouse, and talking to guys about what's going on with their families, because we're usually just in competition and in that baseball mode all the time. But especially last year, like Jeff said, when we had so many different babies born across the course of the season, we all got to kind of help each other and learn from each other, with what's going on with their baby and how things are going for them, what their struggles are, what they're excited about, who's changing more diapers, like things like that. So just it chips away at the what can be a difficult structure of baseball during the season where it's all baseball all the time. So being able to break those down a little bit and have a bit more of a genuine conversation about what's going on with your family, what's going on with your baby, it was certainly a blessing in a lot of ways to create that different kind of friendship with those guys.
Yeah, I've told this story before, but not to you, I guess. So back in 2015, actually, the spring training when Vince and I met, I was in the locker room at Camelback Ranch, and I just overheard a conversation between Kirsch and AJ Ellis, and Callie was just a couple months old at that point, and Kirsch and AJ were talking, and AJ asked Kirsch, "Hey, are you and Ellen driving to LA next week, or are you flying?" It's the end of spring training, and Kirsch is like, we were trying to decide if we'd rather do an hour and a half on an airplane or 6 hours in a car with the baby, and it hit me. I'm like, I've had that exact conversation with my wife because my family's in California. We're back and forth between Utah and California all the time. And that was kind of the big eye opener to me. Like, oh, these Major League Baseball players are like real people with the same challenges I have. They're just, better at baseball than I am, and better at having money, I guess. But that's it's kind of cool for you that you do have Kirsch and Freddie who are kind of in a battle to be the world's greatest dad, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think you mentioned it too. There's so many different kind of like levels of families on our team. We have some guys that have kids that are older and in school, and then some like last year where we all had these newborns coming in at the same time. But it's kind of fascinating to learn how each guy handles their life and what's going on, and to your point, like the logistics of planning how to get your life situated from Arizona to California. My wife and I are going through that right now with getting from Florida to Arizona to Korea to LA, all those things. So it can be challenging at times, but when you have other people that are going through the same things, it definitely makes it easier to share your struggles and how you're going about it too.
Yeah, we've heard a lot about the Dodgers clubhouse culture and everything else, for years now. And you mentioned earlier about Dave Roberts and kind of instilling that confidence when you first got over. The fans have their opinions on Dave Roberts, and we kind of try to, put it in perspective. But what can you say about Dave Roberts and how he manages that clubhouse on a day-to-day basis?
Doc is loved, in that clubhouse. And I think if I'm going to speak about him, I have to speak on the entire coaching staff that we have. And, from top to bottom through the front office all the way down. I think I'm probably a little biased because it's the best, relationship I've had with the front office and coaching staff in my career. I think they've proven to me that they've shown me, what a World Series class organization looks like. And so in that regard, I definitely feel very fortunate to have been a part of it. And I owe everything to those guys. So more on like a day-to-day basis, I think Doc treats us all like grown men. He wants us to be professional. He trusts us that we're going to be, quality, human beings and individuals. But I wouldn't say he has a hand, in the middle of everybody's, day-to-day business. He lets us do our job, but he expects us to do our job. So I think that expectation comes from spring training and in the off season. How are you setting yourself up for success? And so those are all conversations we have, with each other and with the coaching staff, with the front office. That way, our goals are very, very clear, and we understand what's required of us to go out there and do our best to win a World Series.
That's cool. Going back to the baseball stuff, I've been driving the Evan Phillips hype train for a couple of years now. I hope you know. And I've been I've never I capped out at high school baseball, so I have the fans' perspective. But when people talk about, well, Evan Phillips is the closer, I'm like, I don't want Phillips tied down to the ninth inning, because if the 3, 4, 5 hitters are coming up in the eighth inning, that's when I want Evan Phillips in the game. And they kind of went into 2023 with kind of that mindset of, you'd bounce around and you did kind of settle into that ninth inning, probably still more flexibility than most closers have, though, to come in a different situation. Well, this offseason, without naming any names, because I don't want you to have to comment on anybody who's still out there available, but there have been rumors that the Dodgers are, looking to trade for this closer or sign that closer in free agency or whatever. Your mindset when you're hearing that stuff, are you thinking, sweet, I can go back to that flexible fireman role, or kind of what's your mindset when you hear that stuff?
I think it's really interesting that you ask. I think just like we went out there and signed the best player in the world, Shohei Ohtani, we went out there and signed this great up and coming pitching prospect out of Japan, Yamamoto. We traded for a great pitcher in Glass now. The list goes on and on. I think we're in the business of winning games and acquiring talent. So if that talent comes available to us, at a price that's reasonable for what the Dodgers are willing to pay, I think we're going to be more than willing to make that happen. And when it comes to how that impacts my role, genuinely, I'm happy to do whatever it takes for us to win the World Series. Even if we do, bring in a couple of guys that have experience in the closer's role, I definitely feel more than capable to go out there and do the same thing I did last year. Or if we have a conversation in spring about, hey, Evan, we want to transition you to be a bit more of that high leverage reliever role like I did in 2022. I'll certainly be open to that, because there was plenty of times last year where I would be the designated closer pitching the ninth inning, and it's a different kind of adrenaline rush when you feel the intensity of the inning picking up in the sixth, seventh, or eighth inning, and you want to be that guy. You want to be that guy that goes out there and gets that clutch out that keeps us in the ball game or keeps us in the lead. And then the ninth inning is just a totally different animal, because literally the game is on the line. And it took me a couple outings here or there to really learn, the value of those 3 outs at the end of the game. And I think I picked up more of that edge as the year went on, where, I owned that inning a bit more. And so back to the original point, if we decide to bring in, talent along the way that's capable of doing, a multitude of jobs, I think it's just going to be generally good for the Dodgers.
I want to once again thank Evan Phillips for giving us some time and talking with us. We appreciate it. And we're looking forward to the 2024 season with Evan Phillips. That being said, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Remember, you can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to, you can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day, and we'd greatly appreciate it. Remember, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Locked On Podcast Network has some 24/7 streaming channels that might be of interest to you on YouTube. All you got to do is go to YouTube and search Locked On Sports Today or search Locked On Sports Los Angeles, and you can watch news and stories from Locked On experts in the sports world and in the LA sports world. Remember, you can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider. If you go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers, and you can text directly with us. You can also find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. Hint, Instagram's how Evan Phillips found us and how we found him. Remember, you can also follow Jeff on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM either of us for any questions, comments, or concerns. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or if you're at home, tell your smart device, play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.